And I mean, wildcard in general, they're looking really, really hot here. They've really looked almost invincible. There's not a ton of options. There's not a particular lane, a weak point that they can sort of play through here. For the most part, they've just been really strong. And Supernova, well, we've seen some ups and downs for them. We did get to watch them in the quarterfinals against Striking Vipers, where it was an amazingly close match from start to finish here, Grapes. And if coming off a bit of a close performance like that, I don't know how they're going to run into wildcard game one here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wildcard has looked exceptional so far in any game that they play. No, doesn't matter what opponent they face up against, doesn't matter what side of the map they're on, doesn't matter what tournament they're playing. It's just gonna probably be pure domination coming out from Wildcard Red. Supernova want to try and change that though. They want that spot into the NorQuest finals, and this is our first venture into best of threes RMC, so maybe some variation in the draft, something spicy to get Supernova off on the right foot.
Yeah, I think cheese is going to be what Supernova might have to bring to the table here. Playing standard against wildcard feels like a daunting proposition here, and one that I'm not sure that any team is really quite ready to do. So I really hope to see, some crazy picks coming through. And the problem a little bit, I feel like, for Supernova is that they already play a little bit off meta. They already highly prioritize that Lilia, which very few other teams do. So what other cheese can you pull out? We've seen Senna Gwen in the bot lane coming out from them before. I know Diana Yasuo is something that we see a lot of currently from some of the other teams. I want something easy to execute, something big and crazy coming through.
Yeah, and I think that bot lane matchup that you were talking about a little bit, RMC, is something that we could take a look at here. We got, once again, Rovex and Papa Chow going up against Arrow and Daption, who, as we said yesterday, have looked like one of the strongest bot lanes that we have here, even in North America as a whole. So it's going to be up to Rovex and Papa Chow. This is the bot lane, once again, RMC, that kind of is a bit unconventional. They are able to run these different things. Rovex is able to go towards these mages down in the bot lane as well. And so if they want to have a chance to, get a shot here into this game, probably going to expect something interesting to happen around there.
For sure. And the problem, my concern a little bit with trying to punish this bot lane of the side of Wildcard with something crazy from Rovex and Papa Chow is that, well, it's Arrow Daption. And as much attention as has been paid to Arrow, I mean, rightfully so, because Arrow's been an amazing AD carry who often 1v2s while Daption's roaming. Daption put on an amazing performance yesterday when we did get to see him on stream. The engages were absolutely on point here. So even if you do somehow cheese your way into winning the laning phase against Arrow and Daption, I'm a little bit concerned about what happens when they get out of laning phase. Wildcard traditionally drafts very standard compositions where they usually put Daption on something that can engage, something like a Leona, something like a Nautilus, maybe a bit of an Alistar here or there, things that he can find big wombos on. And Daption's spot on. Even when they're behind, as rare as that is, they always find a way to get back in.
Yeah, and it's been really great from Daption, a player that has really grown a lot throughout the 2021 season, starting off on the original wildcard roster, actually the only holdover from spring.
Yeah.
And while he was maybe a player that was a bit green coming out of the bat, looking really strong now. It looks like him and Arrow have really found this sort of connection, as you said earlier. And so I'm really excited to see how they actually end up, meshing here in this series against Supernova, who have that unconventional bot lane that we were talking about. But as we have a little bit of time before we get into draft, just want to shout out once again our friends here at NorQuest College. They have a very, very vibrant and growing esports scene, from Rocket League, Smash, Valorant, and League of Legends. Their community is a host to so many of these games and even more of them. So if you're looking for some of that, make sure to join the NorQuest community at the link that is below the panel out this stream. So if you're interested in some collegiate action up in Canada, definitely something to check out.
Yeah, and collegiate action. Sadly, no collegiate teams today, though. Now that we're in the semifinals, technically all these teams have won some cash money here. It's really a question of, can they win this and go on to the finals? And we talked about cheese grapes a little bit, but in a situation like this where it's a best of three, you need more than just one round of cheese. You need multiple rounds of cheese.
Yeah, you need to. And honestly, it's hard to find situations where Supernova are able to take 2 games off of wildcard. It's been such a long time since these guys dropped a best of 3 or even a best of 5. So Supernova are going to try to make some history here as we have finally loaded into the draft here for the first game of this best of 3. Supernova going to be on your blue side, Wildcard red living up to their name on the red side. And already we see that Aurelia and that Lilia taken off the board, some champions that Supernova were very comfortable on in that first game that we saw earlier today.
Okay, and some surprising picks coming out already for Wildcard red. That Shen coming out, it's not something that we see too much of, but I actually do think Shen is a very strong weak side champion right now, especially if you're not looking to carry through Brandini, but Bradley or Arrow instead. It's going to be massive, and it enables the dives, especially with something like a Vol Bear. You can already turn off a turret, and then you also get to put a shield on this massive bear that will not die. That could be huge for them.
RMC, that's an Aatrox mid for Strompus. Well, this is interesting here. Supernova, we said they needed to go a bit unconventional, and they're definitely doing this here. We've seen Aatrox mid maybe played by Darkwings a while back, but other than that, like, we haven't really seen anybody in NA in the world really pull this pick out, and it's going to be up to Strompus to try and do some work here in the mid lane.
Yeah, and it looks like from what we can already see off this draft from Supernova, they are indexing very heavily into a big wombo combo. Camille sets you up with that Hextech ultimatum, and you should be able to guarantee killing one person, regardless of whether it's Bradley or Arrow here. I don't care that you have shields into a Diana, into an Aatrox, and I'm going to assume that we're going to see some sort of support, maybe like a Leona or something, which can also power in there. What on earth?
Well, it's a support, but there's two things about that. It's not on the right position, and it's not that engaged, but Soraka locked in here by Rovex in the bot lane. We talked about how he was playing that supportive role on Supernova earlier on in some of the tier 2s, and so picking up this Soraka down in the bot lane, gonna rely heavily on your top side for damage here. But for Supernova, they also have that Camille Galio combo set up just in a bit of a different order, with Papa Chow down with it in the support role.
Yeah, we do see a Leona, but it comes in for Daption here paired with that Kalista. And okay, we have to talk about the Soraka pick here, Drapes, because it just blows my mind that it got picked. And I don't even know when it got picked in this draft here.
Let me
but
take a look.
I'm just trying to see how it works with this composition. You've got this big wombo combo. You've got the AoE. Galio getting in there as well with the taunt, just to make sure that everybody who's in there is going to get the full Moonfall damage. But I'm a little bit concerned about their lack of sustained damage here, without an AD carry. I mean, okay, Camille, Aatrox, they will sustain damage. If you build Nash's Tooth into Diana, she's got sustained damage as well. And I guess the Soraka can keep them topped off. But in terms of what Soraka brings to the team fight, it's primarily just topping off your team, and maybe that zone of silence against the Cassiopeia. It's going to be absolutely massive. But that's kind of it here. And we wanted cheese. I need to see this Soraka work. I'm very worried for it, especially into a Kalista Leona, where if you ever get tagged by them, you're dead.
There were two different ways I could see this bot lane for Supernova try and go for some sort of weird playstyle against Arrow and Daption. The first thing I had in my mind was to go for something really crazy, like go for like an Aurelia Leona bot lane or something that could just one-shot Arrow early on into the game and just set him behind early at that point. The other strategy, which Supernova seem to be taking here, is to put their bot lane in a more supportive role. They have the Soraka Galio, don't need to be ahead to have massive impact on the map. They're just essentially picking two supports down there, gonna just try and neutralize Arrow and Daption as much as possible, make sure they don't snowball enough to 1v9 the game, but also make sure that they're not the ones that are inting them kills in the middle of the laning phase as well.
Yeah, and I mean, considering that is a Kalista Leona, if Kalista needs to get a hit early, as the game goes on, Kalista sort of falls off a little bit because a lot of her late game damage comes from one big rend. And that means you've got to wait for the spears to stack up before you do the damage. And if you die before you rend, then it doesn't work here. So I see what they're coming in with. I just don't think the laning phase is going to be safer for them with this Soraka. Soraka struggles to last it as well. Her base damage, her attack speed, the attack animation is a little bit clunky. So trying to last it with the Soraka is going to be a lot more difficult than traditional AD carries. And then the squishiness, just the sheer squishiness of the Soraka. Sure, Papa Chow is going to be very safe. He gets to engage if he wants to, but there's no follow-up damage, so no kill threat. And he's going to make sure that he always peels off that Leona consistently here. If ever, even if Kalista gets in range, you can use that rend to slow down the Soraka in the beginning and then just auto-attack her to death. Yes, the rend is your big damage, but against a Soraka who's so squishy, Kalista base auto attacks will be sufficient.
Yeah, it just feels like Supernova it's going to be really hard to play their composition RMC. I mean, Wildcard, I'm taking a look at the pro draft now. They got counter picks for both the solo laners. So they got the Shen into the Camille, and they got that Cassiopeia, who with the Miasma will prevent a lot of the dashes coming through from Strumpus into the mid lane. So it just seems really hard for some of the solo laners that the Supernova pick to be super aggressive. It seems like Wildcard sort of neutralized them in the way that Supernova is trying to neutralize bot lane.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be very, very interesting here. I mean, Supernova obviously know what they're doing when they are drafting this Soraka Galio. So I look forward to seeing how this one works, because I don't really see it here. Now, for the side of Wildcard Red, like it's a very standard front to back, right? You've got a Cassiopeia who can nullify a lot of this engage. You mentioned that it was a counter pick. It should do fairly well into the Aatrox here. Early levels, you have to be a little bit careful, but Cassiopeia's early damage did get buffed. So that's going to feel quite nice. And Shen into Camille with that sort of defensive dodge zone that he can create there should keep him nice and safe. The jungle matchup as well. Volibear can run over Diana fairly early on in the game.
We saw Winston have a really great Volibear performance yesterday, and this is a champion that he's definitely been pretty comfortable on. So it's exciting to see him try to make a lot of these early game plays on the map, trying to use this bot lane. I'm expecting to try to snowball this lane. It's going to be a bit hard to kill the Soraka Galio, obviously, but if they are able to kind of snowball through Kalista Leona and you have some of these neutralizing solo laners, I think that is the win condition here for Wildcard Red. As we take a look around Summoner's Rift, getting ready for game 1 here in the semifinals of the NorQuest Esports series. I want to thank our sponsors here at Explore Edmonton. Edmonton is a catalyst for change. We're not just talking about the change you find in your pockets. Talking about real change here, and our dream team will work with yours to take your vision and turn it into an unforgettable one for your delegates. How? With creative solutions, a can-do attitude, and a citywide network of doers and makers eager to roll up their sleeves and get things done. Find out more at exploreedmonton.com. Also want to shout out Pepsi. Great taste. Zero sugar is Pepsi Zero Sugar. Make sure to try that drink out. I certainly have. It's pretty good. And RMC, as we get ready for this game, oh, look at those little squirrels. They're really cute. But I mean, there's a lot of things for Supernova to try and look at here. And what do you think the early game process is going to be for this team as they try to take a surprise game with this composition that they've drafted up?
Okay, before we're talking about Supernova, you thought those squirrels are cute, Grapes. You need to book a Sam Price safari. Sam Price Summoner's Rift safari here. I don't know if you heard of it, but there's an observer called Sam Price who specializes in finding all the critters on the map. I had the pleasure of working with him, I think about 2 weeks ago, and he showed me stuff I did not know was on the map. There's snails, there's frogs, there's squirrels, there's birds. I think there's you can see the dragon off the edge of the rift or something like that. Like, that was absolutely insane. You should definitely hit him up.
Is it like the dragon that's like waiting to respawn like in the before 5 minutes? And can you like tell? So. Can you tell like what dragon's gonna be first if you look over?
I honestly don't recall. I was just so shocked that we saw a dragon that I don't recall if it was the first dragon. But you know what? It could very well be that dragon there. And I think he said there was some on Howling Abyss as well. But unfortunately, it wasn't an ARAM tournament. Didn't get to see that particular map.
I mean, that's an interesting strategy. Maybe some people can take advantage of that early on if they want to, find out some of the souls or things like that. I don't know how likely that would be, but I mean,
first drag advantage.
First drag advantage. You already see it when you press tab when you load into the game. Yeah, sure, gonna be pretty helpful here, but. Oh man, I'm just excited for this best of 3. On the other side, we have AOE Esports against Conviction Summer, who took a convincing and surprising victory over Wildcard Black earlier today, and that's a team that I was really excited to take a look at here in this tournament. And hopefully, we'll see one of them in the finals, but it'll be interesting to see who it is.
Yeah, I mean, I work a lot with AOE, so obviously wish them great success. But at the same time, I'm very curious to see what Conviction brought to the table. Unfortunately, you can't stream that one, but this game is going to be a banger as well. I mean, just looking at the drafts of what Supernova pulled out, the fact that you're willing to go something non-meta and unorthodox like that, something that's stymieing even me right now, I love to see that sort of thing. The more you can confuse me, the more fun I think the draft is. If you can execute it. That's the caveat. If you can execute it. If this Soraka Galio ends up just dying in lane like 3-4 times, like right away, at that point, that I'm not so impressed.
Yeah, and that's kind of the critical point here for Supernova. Can their bot lane stay alive? They have the gank heavy jungler on the other side for with that volley bear on Winston's shoulders. And so if they are not careful, it could be in a bit of trouble here. But they have the scaling jungler in the Diana here for Maddie. Going to try to just probably farm up a little bit, maybe try to impact some of the solo lanes if they get the right opportunity. But we are here on Summoner's Rift for game 1 of the NorQuest Esports Series semifinal. Supernova once again on the blue side, Wildcard on the red side. And I'm just excited to get this semifinals underway for the first time.
Oh yeah, 5-point starts once again. No invades coming through. What did we expect, Graves? I mean, it is a best of 3 and all the teams have been fairly passive. Now, for Supernova, we mentioned the fact that they got counterpicked in their solo lanes. We mentioned the fact that their bot lane is not going to be that strong or that aggressive. And Diana is a scaling champ. Do we get level 1?
Papa Chow's going in with a double man, 2-man taunt. Bradley's going to get locked up by the chains here from Strumpus, but with the W start, not going to have too much damage to start us off. Arrows landing in the spear is going to pop the Ren to chunk Chow below 200 HP. There's a nice attempt here by Supernova. They get the flash out of Bradley to start the game off.
If they had a proper ADC, Grapes, those bananas really don't hurt, unfortunately, at level 1. But I'm very glad we got to see action. It wasn't even an invade. It was just kind of like handshake, let's go to the mid lane and, you know, see what we can find here. They did actually, I think, spot out Maddie. So they will know that Maddie is starting bot side. And now I'm a little bit concerned because the point I wanted to bring up before that fight broke up was that Supernova don't have strong early lanes. If you get invaded as a Diana, you don't have help. There's no lane that can help you. Maybe the Aatrox gets to move, but in that melee range matchup, I think Bradley's going to punish this Aatrox quite a bit, and I don't think Strumpus is going to have the luxury to move out.
Well, important to note that Bradley actually did end up expending his teleport to get back to lane as the minions spawn, so no summoner spells available on Bradley. Could be a place for Maddie to potentially look. If Strumpus is able to get some sort of advantage, get some sort of knockup, it'll be a big punishment considering Bradley does not have any of those summoner spells. But it will be full clears for both of these junglers to start off. Chow and Daphne just trading a little bit, gonna proc the aftershocks. First blood, wait. Okay, Bradley picks up first blood. Didn't see exactly how that happened, but that's not how Strumpus wanted to start this game off.
Oh, and I'm so confused, Graves. We were just talking about the teleport bot side action.
No, back in the bot lane. Chow's getting low. The Rend will chunk Chow to below 100 HP. Rovex has some of the speed coming out. No W available with the level 1 still, so have to be a little bit careful as that's the flash forward from Daphne. Lennis Blade will only land onto Rovex, so Chow is still alive. Arrows pummeling in the spears once again, but Rovex hits that crucial level 2 position, which means that the heals will start to come in and some of the sustain will finally start to go underway here for Supernova.
But that damage did land on Rovex earlier, and one of Soraka's most precious resources in the early game is health, unfortunately. If Soraka is chunked, Soraka cannot heal herself, well, unless she lands some star calls. Topside, Brandini does get some aggressive vision in, so they're going to be able to track where Maddie is. And Maddie so far did full clear jungle, bot side fairly safely. Top side, I don't know how safe that side is.
Top side Scuttle Crab is getting started up. Strumpus is here to try and contest. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Arrow gets chunked out really low, but actually ends up taking down Chow in the process. And this Soraka is not going to do too much to stop Daphne from just freezing that wave over. But now back in the top side, Brandini's going to taunt up Strumpus and take him down once again. Cozy's going forward with the hook shot. They will get Brandini, but now Winston is still here, has the damage, and Bradley has joined the fight. Cozy has to run out, has the bloom plating proc. Maddie's going to actually maybe look to go in once again. Pops the Crescent, going to dash forward with the Lunar Rush, but it might have been a bit off more than he could chew. He dies to the burn from Bradley, and it's now 4-1 in favor of Wildcard Red.
Blue buff transfer as well onto this Cassiopeia. You're making Strumpus's life almost impossible here. Already went down twice in this game. This Aatrox is suffering, and Papa Chow, I mean, you're not gonna really find anything here. If anything, you have to be careful that you don't get pinched.
He's gonna look for something. I mean, Bradley has that shutdown on him, ticking up on the tier, and he is pushed up. I think the ward might have spotted Papa Chow, has the Justice Punch. He will maybe try to use it to go aggressive. We'll get the knockup. We'll get the taunt eventually. Flash forward from Strumpus to get the knockup. Bradley's ticking. No flash, no life. Big shutdown going over to Strumpus to neutralize the lane.
Huge play coming through there, and they did manage to get the kill, thankfully, onto Strumpus with that bounty as well, because the Aatrox definitely needs it to survive. And I'm actually a little bit surprised that the ward didn't catch out Papa Chow moving in. And with that control ward they left as well, they can look for a potential repeat gank coming through from Maddie or from Papa Chow. The question is, what was the cost for this particular play? Bot side, we do see that the wave is not in a great spot, and Rovex wasn't really able to CS too well against this Kalista Leona. You do not get to try and 1v2 them. If a Hex Flash comes through, if a Zenith Blade lands, that's an insta-kill.
Yeah, and with that bot lane pressure that Wildcard Red have set up, Winston has made his way over to this first dragon. It was the Infernal Dragon. Not sure if the Dragon on the Rift was also a red one, but I guess we'll never know. So we'll figure that out in just a little bit potentially. But first dragon of the game, going to the Wildcard, once again, getting some of those early offensive stats into the carries is going to be big.
Now, for Supernova, giving up the first couple of dragons is somewhat to be expected, especially with this bot lane that they've opted into. The question becomes, what can they do after the first two Drakes? Third Drake is extremely important because that gives you that soul point pressure. But I'm still not quite seeing how they're going to deal with this Kalista, who can stack up the stacks here. It feels like Supernova have put themselves into a position where later on in the game, post 6 here, their only way of winning is to find these big, massive brawls, these 5v5s.
Well, another 2v2 fight underway. Double taunt landed here by Papa Chow, but he has a bunch of spears rendered into him. Ren will get exhausted, but it doesn't look like Chow is in a good spot. The heal's not enough. He will die, and Winston gets a solo kill onto Maddie on the other side. World Ender was popped by Strampus, but it's not able to do too much. Bradley gets out with about 500 HP.
And that bot side kill was massive. And the fact that Maddie is down as well, right? So your Diana, who's supposed to be one of your big late game carries and potentially one of your... I don't want to say primary engages because I think you're relying on Camille partially for that as well. But the Diana is down and you're not going to get any jungle pressure. So your lanes are pretty much on their own. Cozy's done a great job so far. It's probably the most even of the lanes. But Strampus down roughly about 13 CS, roughly about 2 waves. Bot lane down about 15 CS. That's almost 2.5 waves here. And things are not looking good. If you can't rely on your jungle, then your lanes are kind of shafted for the most part, and we might have to see them sack an early turret, look to just get some rotations, get out of that laning, that 2v2, that 1v1 situation. Yeah,
the sooner you can get to that Wombo state, the better probably for Supernova. And Wildcard, with the lanes that they have, are probably more than happy with staying in some of those positions. And already, about 1,500 gold is in favor of Wildcard Red here in the first game of the semifinals. So Wildcard definitely in a good spot. Supernova might have to be careful here in the mid lane. Strampus might get caught out here by Winston, who does have the Stormbringer. The miasma is big in denying any sort of movement out from Strampus, and he will die on over-aggressive play in the mid lane.
Yeah, that miasma is doing so much work right now, and it will continue to do work on almost every member of Supernova. I'm waiting for the Petrifying Gaze as well, because beforehand we saw the ganks come through. You were able to punish the Cassiopeia, but now that she has the ultimate, it's going to be so much harder to gank. And you already saw that was what, 3 Poison Fangs coming out from that Cassiopeia, and a bit of damage from Winston as well. And your Aatrox goes down. He's your tankiest member, probably, maybe Papa Chow, but those are your 2 tankiest members. And if they're going down to 3 or 4 Poison Fangs, how are you going to gank that lane?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. Bradley already has so much damage here with that lost chapter in his inventory. Cozy went in with the teleport, but was actually denied of any kills with that Fate's Call coming out from Arrow. So that's another summoner spell, RMC, that was utilized to try and snowball Supernovas anywhere. And it just doesn't look like it's going to work.
Yeah, I understand the call there. I think it was a good attempt. But this is Arrow, and if you saw Arrow's positioning, he was playing so far back. Not usually what you expect from a support AD carry duo, but this Kalista pick, I feel like not only is it something that Arrow's very comfortable with, but it also enables Daption to play extremely aggressively, knowing that if anything goes wrong, you have an escape plan. You don't even have to flash away here. And if they ever misplay on that, you can always just re-engage with that second proc of the Fate's Call.
Yeah, exactly. And Chow's got to be careful.
Wow.
Daption actually goes forward with his Zenith Blade. Solar Flare will get flashed away from. No ultimate available yet onto Papa Chow, but up in the top lane, Cozy has been hit up by the ultimatum. Teleport coming in from Bradley to deter any sort of re-engage. Does have the Petrifying Gaze available if he wants to go in 1v2. Twin Fangs are doing so much. The miasma will block out Cozy. The burn, is it enough to take it down? It will! Bradley gets the kill, his 4th of the game onto Cozy up in the top lane, and now Maddie might be in another bad spot here. He's just going to have to sack so much of these minions, so much of this gold. And here comes the Stand United as well from Brandini. Wildcard want to do something here. The TP from Strampus will prevent the dive and will save Maddie's life for now.
That is the teleport blown from Strampus there to try and match Bradley, and all you kind of did was nullify it. You didn't manage to save Cozy from going down. And huge props to Bradley on that miasma positioning. I want to point that out, that it was all along the wall, and Cozy had to walk through it the entire time. Could not hook shot away whatsoever there, and had to eat the poison. So great positioning. And now the game score is 2-8. Wildcard Red are starting to run away with it, with a composition that frankly goes into the mid game a little bit better here.
He's going to get taunted up here by Papa Chow. Maddie is here. They're going to try to lock up Arrow with that Moonfall. Hero's entrance will knock up the Callista, and they will get the shutdown onto Arrow. Maddie dies in return, and Bradley is on the horizon. It's just Rovex and Chow here, and they don't do a whole lot of damage. Winston is here, has the Stormbringer up to make him a big, juicy bear. Rovex goes down under the tower, and it looks like Papa Chow will do just that as well. Daption gets away with no health and no mana, and another aggressive dive works in success for Wildcard Red.
That was a 2v3, and they won that. And the mid laner rotates first now. It's just not allowable. Dragon being taken as well, and topside, Cozy's still trying to fight this.
Brandini does have a good amount of armor already, so it's going to be hard for Cozy to do too much here. It's now 11-3 in favor of Wildcard Red. They're going to pick up this second dragon of the game as well. Cozy, oh, he's popping the emotes. He's not having a great time right now in this lane. And SUPERNOVA is going to have to do something quick. They need to stem the bleeding to try and stay alive in this game.
That's where I'm still scratching my head a little bit here, Graves. I'm not quite sure who they're looking at here. Maddie feels like the focal point, but I think he needs to get that first item right now. And topside, Cozy's down a level. So those are your two big sort of engaged champions, which then leaves you with Strampus. Strampus might actually have to just flash in to try and find a priority target. We saw them take down Arrow, but it's not just Arrow you need to worry about. He's 2-1, and sure, a Callista is very strong in the early game, but Bradley's already 5-1 with the Liandry's completed. If you do not kill this snake will just absolutely wreck your entire team, and you don't get to engage into a Cassiopeia with Petrifying Gaze up.
Yeah, and especially not a 5-1-1 Cassiopeia. Bradley has had pure domination from minute one here in this mid lane, picking up that early first blood onto Strampus. Remember, this was the matchup that Bradley picked himself into, and it seems like the counter is doing very, very well. Meanwhile, Wildcard Red trying to go for an aggressive play here onto the red buff of SUPERNOVA. Winston picks it up, the big BM, and Maddie is no longer alive. Winston picks up his fourth kill of the game, and now the rest of SUPERNOVA have to be on the run. Rovex and Papa Chow once again the target. Face call forward from Daption will stun up the Soraka. Bradley picks up another kill with the Twin Fangs, and Winston is tanking up the tower, a very tanky bear. And Bradley, Bradley. No kills going over to Bradley, but Papa Chow was tanked pretty low. First tower of the game also secured on the bot side for Wildcard Red with that Rift Herald, and SUPERNOVA are now down about 6,500 gold before the turret plates even fall.
You're gonna get the second turret. They got a second charge off, and Shelly's just doing so much work here. I want to point something out here, Graves. There's no healing cut on the side of Wildcard Red. They're doing this through straight damage through your Soraka, and they're far ahead enough that anybody could pick up that Executioner's Calling or that Oblivion Orb or whatever healing cut they need, and then suddenly you have no healing from the Soraka.
Maddie has to use the Rocket Belt to get out, but there's the Stormbringer from Winston, now unstoppable on this Volley Bear. The target is Bradley, but the Petrifying Gaze will stun up Strampus for now. Has the stopwatch as well. Rovex has already fallen, and it doesn't look like anybody on Wildcard wants to die. Strampus will do just that as the flash forward from Bandini will secure the double kill. Cozy's left on top lane, but other than that, it's an ace for Wildcard Red.
I'm dying here, Graves. That was a 2v4 to start things off. Sure, Stand United came through, so we'll call that a 2.5 v4 to start. But the fact that SUPERNOVA wasn't able to kill Bradley after throwing so much resources into him, oh, that's really rough for SUPERNOVA. And I don't want to call a game too early, but I think SUPERNOVA need to start thinking a little bit about what went wrong in this draft, because it feels like this draft has some gaps, has some flaws, and Wildcard just picked it apart.
I mean, the biggest thing I think is that SUPERNOVA had this composition in mind, but they didn't take too much into account what Wildcard could match up against. I mean, if you think about it in theory, this composition can work out very well if you have the Wombo combo, if the lanes don't fall too far behind. But if you have this counter if you have counter picks for Wildcard Red in both the solo lanes, it effectively neutralizes any sort of advantage that Supernova would have been able to get in terms of their solo laners, in terms of Cozy's Camille, Strampus' Aatrox. And so while the bot lane was designed to fall behind, so did the other two lanes.
I mean, even the bot lane, right? It feels like a bit of a counter here. We didn't call it a counter because we weren't sure how that works. Brandini just tanking up this damage, and TP starting to come through. Bradley?
Yeah. Bradley will join the Horizon, but it's 4 members of Supernova collapse onto the solo laners of Wildcard. That's a Solar Flare going to lock up the parry here for Supernova. Cozy forced the flash out of the way, but the face call forward from Arrow is going to knock up too. Winston going forward as well. Papa Chow's in a bad spot. He will die first. Daption is tanking the tower and will stay alive. Maddie dies to the second Twin Fangs, and again, nobody on Wildcard Red falls. This is another 2 for 0.
Aggro juggling was so well done there, and Brandini just would not die. All Brandini has is a Sunfire Aegis and plated steel caps. That's all he had in that fight. And they already couldn't kill him quick enough. And sure, there was a TP coming through, but everybody else, Arrow, Winston, Daption, they walked up to that top lane to back him up.
That's the second Rift Herald as well. And looks like Wildcard are going to look for some more here. There's a Stormbringer forward. Rovex will be forced to flash out of the way. Cozy is now in a bad position. Going to get locked up by the Shields of Daybreak. Papa Chow's here to try and peel for his teammates, but it might lead to his own death if he's not careful enough. Here comes Maddie. Doesn't have the Moonfall, so not going to have a whole lot of all-in potential. There's the Wish. Going to chunk out the rest of Supernova, gonna get them a decent amount of HP. Now Strampus is here on the flank, doesn't have the World Ender, but has the Q. Standing United procs onto Bradley, and he's just not gonna die. Cozy does, so does Chow, so does 3, make it 4, triple kill for Bradley, and Rovex the Soraka is the only one alive. He was the one who was supposed to heal up his team.
I mean, he ran out of mana, so he was trying, and there we go. Yep.
Can't say I'm surprised. I mean, that was a brutal game for Supernova. They went all in with the chips, and sometimes the cards just aren't in your favor. Wildcard Red stack the deck and take game 1 of the semifinals matchup here in the NorQuest Esports series.
Yeah, really well executed from the side of Wildcard. They obviously had answers. They were prepared to go into it, right? The Cassiopeia last pick was kind of the key to everything here. That R5 pick just countered everything that Supernova tried to bring to the table. And 23-3 the final score, a 12,000 gold gap. And 12,000, okay, we hear that number being thrown around sometimes, usually after Baron's taken, but that's 20-30 minutes into the game here when, you know, people are sitting on like 50,000 gold, and it's like, okay, it's a 10% gold difference. That's huge. To put this in context, Supernova had 24,000 gold. The gold gap was 12,000. Wildcard had 50% more gold than Supernova at 16.5 minutes. Absolutely brutal. And for Supernova, I am going to peg this down to draft because I did not see how this Galio Soraka lane was supposed to work from start to finish. It didn't. So go back to the drawing board. They still have one more game to find a win in, and I expect to see other cheese maybe, but other cheese with some sort of early game mechanism where they won't fall apart.
You can try to imagine in your head certain situations where the draft for Supernova works, but I think in a lot of those situations, there's different champions on the other side. Wildcard responded to the draft that Supernova set up pretty well. Those Camille and Aatrox, those 2 melee bruiser solo laners, got countered by the Cassiopeia and the Shen, preventing any sort of movement, any sort of auto attacks from landing in as well. So just really denied a lot of the win condition there for Supernova. And for Wildcard Red, I mean, you basically got a layup here with the kind of composition that you set up for yourself, and with the early game prowess that Bradley had at that level 1, it just seemed pretty doomed from Supernova from the start. I'm excited to see this kind of innovation come out from Supernova, but it's got to be a little bit different here in this game too as they try to come back.
And I have very little doubt they'll be able to fix it. The coach of Supernova, Coach Koso, I've sung his praises before. I love his innovative drafts here, and he's got other cards in his deck, I'm sure, that he can pull out here. But he's got to pull something big out, because if you lose this game right now, you're out. There is no third place match, right? Third and fourth get the same prize here. So I want to see something different here. And like I said, focus on the early game a little bit, because this is wildcard gaming. Red, they're not a team that necessarily picks a draft that just goes up into the late game. They're happy picking something like the Callista Leona that will take over an early game, something like the Volibear that has a lot of impact, that can snowball your leads in your lanes here. So don't look to skill against them. You've got to win early, if anything here. If you you don't want to get smashed apart. And their draft this time just had no early game mechanic. You drafted 3 losing lanes and a losing jungler. Not ideal.
We'll see if Supernova are able to shuffle things up against the Kings of Wildcard Red. But before we get into that, once again, want to shout out some of our sponsors here at NorQuest. Big thank you to Alberta Innovates, ESIO, ATB, and Memory Express, Canada's premier destination for computer parts since 1996. 14 stores all across that great nation, and they're ready to serve you whether you're in store or online. So if you want to learn more, go to memoryexpress.com. Game 2 between Supernova and Wildcard Red will be happening in just a few minutes, and we'll see you then. Welcome back, everybody, to the NorQuest Esports series. I'm Graves, joined here by RMC. Before we get into game 2 between Supernova and Wildcard, want to shout out NorQuest College. They've been doing some great things here in the esports world. They've had Rocket League, Smash, Valorant League. Their community server is a host to many of these games and even some more as well. So what are you even waiting for? Go and join that NorQuest community at the link below. RMC, it was a pretty quick game there in that game 1 for Wildcard Red, and for Supernova they're gonna have to try and make some adjustments to have a chance to get a game off in this best of 3.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked a lot about that interesting drop that came through from Supernova, but we have to remember that a lot of it just snowballed off that early death coming through from Strongest in lane, and that really hurt them. When that happened, the Cassiopeia just took off, and Bradley just looked absolutely unstoppable. So, well, I'm not a huge fan of the draft. I did get a moment to actually talk to the coach of Supernova, Coach Koso there, and he was explaining to me that the idea behind that particular draft kind of got derailed basically by Maddie and Strompas messing up the early game. The idea is, once it gets to the later parts of the game, then it'll be able to hold its own. There's a lot of sustain. There's a lot of disruption for that short range team fight that we did see come out of Wildcard. Personally, I'm not completely sold on it, but you know what? It's game 2. Game 1's done it in the books. Grapes. Hopefully we see something a little different here in game 2.
Yeah, I think it sounded good in theory. As you said, that early game really made it a bit strange. I remember earlier at the beginning of that game, I was talking about how excited I was. Maybe Strongest has a chance to go aggressive on Bradley early on. He blows both of his summoners at the beginning off of that level 1 play from Papa Chow with the taunt. But I mean, when you die solo to Bradley without summoner spells level 1, it just really makes it a lot harder for you to do anything in that mid lane. And while that was sort of probably going to be Supernova's win condition through Strumpus, it didn't end up panning out the way that we were anticipating. Maddie never got off on the right foot, and Supernova really lost that game almost from the start, that feels like.
Yeah, and I am expecting to see some changes coming through from Supernova's draft, whether it be maybe a different mid laner or maybe a different jungler, something to help change that up here. Well, actually, what am I saying? I was going to see a change in bot lane. That Soraka was the part that I thought really, I wasn't sure how it was necessarily going to work. I'm expecting some changes there, but for Wildcard, I don't think they need to change anything, right? The Kalista, Leona, Volibear was very, very solid in the early game. Maybe the counter pick changes coming through because they countered in the solo lanes, right? The Shen Cassiopeia. So maybe that part changes up, but I think Shen is blind pickable again, if you want to go with that. And the Cassio, I honestly didn't think the Cassio Aatrox should have been won that hard. So if you can do it in that particular lane, I'm sure you'll be fairly comfortable picking it. Wildcard Red is red side again for game 2, so they will get the final counter pick.
Yeah, and as you said, Supernova will be on blue side once again, so they will have that early prio on one of the first picks, one of those heavy priority picks. It was a Diana in that last game for Maddie. Didn't end up working too well, but it's important to kind of get that AP threat available for them with the Lilia already taken off the board. We are headed here into the draft. Important to note that this game was once again pro drafted, so you'll see some of the players picking in positional order, but once again we're seeing some of the similar bands already that we saw in that first one.
Yeah, so far I believe they are identical in terms of what we're seeing, and if the last one's a Xin Sao, looks like a bit of a run back coming through here.
I don't know if Supernova want the run back, RMC. I mean, wow, if that means that the same thing is gonna happen, I don't see a world where Supernova is like, okay, that was it was just a little bit of a mistake, and we can just win off of that. I feel like maybe some more adjustments will have to be made. It is a Ziggs actually. It is gonna get banned away, and Yeah, we'll see what the lineups here for Supernova are as we start to unfold this draft.
Okay, already. Oh, actually, we shouldn't call it too early. I mean, the Aatrox can still be switched up, but there are some changes coming through. For wildcard red here, at least, with the Gwen pickup coming through. And you know what, Grapes, despite the fact that we don't think Salty Roundback is a great idea, Coach Koso was actually saying that, no, they might do something similar.
Okay.
It might work. I mean, the whole idea behind the Galio Soraka is that you sustain up, right? The Soraka just never gets tagged, and you've got 4 seconds of CC. You lock down that Callista, and Callista doesn't get to sort of free fire and priority targets. That at least that's how the lane is supposed to go. So for Aatrox, pick for the top lane. Diana, also the same, but Tristana, that's a little bit different here. And I'm glad to see an AD carry pickup. We don't know if it's mid yet. It can still be flexed to the AD carry position. And as we saw in our previous game, Striking Vipers did change up the order after everything was locked in.
Yeah, we'll see if that ends up happening here. And whoa. Oh. Well, RMC, I have a proposition to make to you. Supernova, in that game, died a lot. If you have a Zilean, you can revive somebody who died. I think that this logic makes a lot of sense here, and that's a brilliant pickup here for Supernova. They immediately win the draft. What are your thoughts on this?
I would posit to you instead, Grapes, that was a 16.5-minute game with 23 deaths on the side of Supernova. Zilean only gets his res at level 6, which is roughly, I think, about 8-9 minutes in the bot lane for the duos. So you get to save half those deaths, not including cooldowns. Supernova got 3 kills that game, so half of 23 is still 11.5 there. Not completely sold.
Oh, okay. I mean, that is true, I guess. But this is it's almost a similar idea though, RMC, with this Zilean pickup. You get a little bit more wave clear with the bombs than you would have with that Soraka pickup for Rovex, and it still provides a lot more of that supportive build. You can still get those chrono shifts to heal your players up in a bit of a different way, and it might help them neutralize this lane a little bit more. In that first game, it seemed like Rovex and Papa Chow were getting pushed in constantly because of the lack of wave clear that was available for them. So having the Zilean could be a bit more beneficial against the same bot lane that we saw in game 1 from Wildcard.
Yeah, and I do think it does change up quite a lot on the side of Supernova here. I'm going to assume that this is a Tristana mid, that Trumpus isn't going to flex himself, the entire player and champion, into the bot lane to pair with this Galio, but it does change up the dynamic, because the Soraka Galio lane, according to Coach Koso, was supposed to work by sustaining through a lot of the damage with that Soraka. Zilean doesn't have any sustain in his kit, right? You've got a res at level 6, that's about it. As you mentioned, there is still that better wave clear with the bombs, and it's, in a way, it's going to stop the engage better from that Leona, because if you engage with that Leona, the taunt comes out from Galio, you guarantee the double bomb as well. And same thing with the Callista. If you do get the taunt on the Callista, you double bomb the Callista. If anything, it's even better, because Soraka provides you a root. You can still auto during that. Whereas against the Zilean, that's a flat out stun. Callista doesn't get to stack Rens while that's happening here. So a bit more kill threat, a bit more pressure here. But again, with that top and that mid, I don't fancy their odds here. The Gwen into an Aatrox is a kind of an even lane a little bit. Gwen, I mean, will scale a little bit better, and with that mobility, Mei can kite around a little bit, but Gwen is weaker in the early game, did get nerfed. Mid lane feels like a bit of a game of dodgeball here. I like Jason to Tristana. You do get a lot of ability to trade back, and you get the better poke in lane. So I think Wildcard, again, they've drafted themselves a stronger mid jungle and potentially a stronger top side of the map.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look at the pro draft, RMC, of just to kind of see how these teams ended up getting into the positions that they did. And once again, it's Wildcard who ended up getting the counter matchup in both of the lanes. They ended up seeing the Aatrox before they locked in the Gwen. They saw the Tristana before they locked in the Jace. First of all, kind of interesting to see that, you know, Bradley is not on the Gwen. It's actually going over to Brandini in this game, but Jace is still a champion that Bradley is pretty comfortable on, and it seems like Wildcard once again just got the matchups that they wanted in seemingly all 3 lanes. And
Brandini does play a very mean Gwen. I mean, back in the day, Wildcard was, I think, the only team to not ban Gwen when she was in her overpowered phase, when everybody was picking her. It was with Dokla, but Brandini's got a very similar champion pool, so I have very little concerns about this Gwen here. I just wonder if Wildcard knew that the Tristana was potentially going mid, or whether they drafted this Jace thinking that they'd be running it into a Zillion mid, because I was just thinking about how this Jace works, and if anything, it does decently into the Tristana. It would have done even better into the Zillion.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing to think about. Obviously, we have the foresight in knowing that Strampus was the one to lock in that Tristana, so it will be going over towards him. But I guess, you know, if you're wildcard, you don't really know. Though that's the kind of the whole point of drafting some of these flex picks that are available to you. So I'm interested to see how this draft works out for Supernova. I think it's a better version of the setup that they tried to run in game 1. And if they kind of have a better early game, if they don't die level 1 like they did in that first game, I think they might have a decent shot to maybe go for that upset if all things go right.
Now, the big question here with this particular draft is whether or not they can survive the early game once again. Because the issue I had with the draft in game 1 was I didn't see a winning lane for them. I was saying that, you know, topside Cozy was going to definitely struggle. You have a bit more agency, but into the Shen, you don't necessarily win that. And the Aatrox later was going to struggle into the Cassiopeia. But now, with this particular matchup, Aatrox actually gets a little bit of a better laning phase in the early game against this Gwen. Depending on how that level 1 plays out, I mean, you can still mess that up, then Brandini is likely to run the Ignite here rather than the Flash for a bit more lane pressure. But Maddie is still on the weak side in the jungle. And depending on how the mid lane goes, if Strampus gets poked out, or if it is Rovex in the mid lane, if your mid laner gets poked out by this chase, then you lose control of the map again, and Winston gets to snowball everything, gets to go for those ganks in the bot side with a Kalista Leona, who is one of the strongest early game duos.
Yeah, and we saw Winston have a really great game on the Volley Bear once again in game 1, and I'm interested to see how they're able to play it, because I think the point still stands here for wildcard. You have this 2v2 in the Kalista Leona, going to be up against this lane that's essentially meant to neutralize you, and you have this strong early game jungler in Winston. So I think it's going to be up to the wildcard bot to play through their bot lane once again, and let's see if they do that. We're about to get onto the Rift for game 2 here in the NorQuest Esports series. Currently, wildcard is up 1-0 over Supernova, but before we get onto the Rift, want to take a moment to thank our sponsor here at Explore Edmonton. 1 million plus Edmontonians call Alberta's capital home. They're the entrepreneurs, experts, and hosts that can help turn your opportunities into reality. Famous for their festivals, lively arts and music scene, and sprawling picturesque river valley, we offer much more than just places for your delegates. Oh wait, it's a lizard. I have to finish. To eat, sleep, and be entertained. Find out more at exploreedmonton.com. RMC, I missed the animal, but we're here on the Rift. It's game 2 of the NorQuest Esports Series semifinals.
Oh man, our producer, our observer here for the day hates me, just showing off that he can do a little bit of a safari as well here. I'm curious to see how many other animals we'll get to see throughout the day. But maybe it's not up to our observer, maybe it's up to the games. If it's won a game here, the bigger question is, can Supernova get us to a game 3 here in the semifinals?
Absolutely. Once again, taking a look around the Rift, not too many early game plays. Looks like instead of going for that early invade here, Papa Chow goes for that recall. Going to go opt for that safer approach, but it allows wildcard to have an aggressive stance here in the jungle to start off. Rovex forced a flash super early as the death ball from wildcard was just too much, and Maddie's going to get warded off of his own jungle, and this is not a good start here for Supernova.
A very preemptive flash coming through, and Rovex opted to stick around to get that bomb down, to get that extra bit of poke. Daption, I guess, you're worried about the Zenith Blade coming through, and if a single Zenith Blade comes through, then maybe the follow-up from the Volibear with the stun would be sufficient to get the kill. But not having that in this aggressive kill bot lane is really going to suck for Rovex, and might force them to play a bit more passively.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit scary. We saw the flash on Bradley early on in game 1. Didn't really matter too much, but in the top side, Ignite already popped by Brandini. This is the matchup he picked himself into, and Cozy is already ticked to below 100 HP. Gonna have to be really careful here, as Winston, he's just gonna go from, red to red. Make sure no vertical jungling ends up happening.
He's looking for that 3 buff there, and a lot of that's enabled by that level 1 invade, and by the fact that Wildcard Red have the stronger lanes. The only question mark we had was top lane for Brandini, and that's why we saw the Ignite come out so aggressively, so early there. It's about making sure that you have that prio, and you can guarantee that if there is any sort of attempt at trying not to get 3 buff, at trying to invade to get anything, you can back up your jungler immediately.
I don't know if you were looking at the minimap, but Maddie just
Yeah,
wasted
it's-
a lot of time running up to the Raptor pit. Not even going to go for the red, as Winston just going to make his way back down to his wolves. Maddie, I think he would have had a pretty free red buff, but instead, going to just go down to his Raptors, take the safer approach, and he's already down about a camp, and there's still a way more on the side of Winston already.
And I would argue that's brilliance on Winston's part. The way he took the Raptors and nothing else and made them scared. They're looking for Troppers there. This is a two-man gag.
Gotta see if the rocket jump will be enough. Instead, it's gonna be Troppers dashing forward. He knows he's dead. He's gonna try to take on with him, but he will not be able to. Bradley and Winston secure first blood once again for wildcard.
The exhaust from Bradley. We didn't touch too much on the summoner spells that were being taken. I mean, we mentioned the ignite top, but the exhaust mid as well. Normally, you don't see that too much because the exhaust range isn't ideal or great later against the Tristana, but early on, it is good, especially for the Jace who wants to go in when you get that explosive shot on you. Jace can out-trade, can out-damage, and we're seeing the aggression here from Wildcard Red. They're not going to let you scale. They're going to look to apply pressure in every one of their lanes.
Absolutely, and for wildcard, they're already off on the right foot, up about 500 gold. Had that advantageous jungle start for themselves. Interestingly enough, Winston's red buff still hasn't been taken yet. Don't know if Maddie knows it, but he's instead just going to go for this Krug take with Cozy getting pressure in this top side, having this wave shoved in just a little bit. Maddie's going to try to get some gold back here and maybe look for a bit of a play afterwards.
Honestly, a little bit confused about the whole jungle pattern right now coming through because Maddie is even further behind, and Winston only just picked up the second buff of the game, which was that blue buff. I mean, he invaded and then he just never finished clearing his own side of the jungle because he was making early plays here. If not for the fact that Maddie is even further behind, this could potentially be bad for wildcard. Maddie didn't go for the red. He based after
Yeah, I
first.
mean, I don't know. I guess Maddie just assumed that Winston went red to red and just found his way around the other side of the map to get that first blood somehow, but I don't know. It seems like the pathing from both of these teams has been a little bit interesting as, whoa, bottom side, arrows tick low. There's the exhaust. Flash forward from Chow will secure the kill onto the former LCS MVP. Dash is going to try to get one in return with the ignite. Shield of Daybreak onto Rovex, who has the bombs. Might try to get a slow stun. There's a stun with a double again. Justice Punch to buffer, and Dabshin is ticking low. One more auto will do it, and Rovex and the Supernova bot lane pick up a 2v2 over Arrow and Dabshin.
I don't know, Grapes, if that was how that bot lane is supposed to work because they caught Arrow alone, but you take that, and that was beautifully played. The moment they saw the roam up from Dabshin just to get some vision down, they immediately punish Arrow. They see the lone target, and the CC chain maybe won't be as...
Oh, Papa Chow trying to push that wave and was just a little too late. Arrow's gonna get one back and get this big wave as well. It's a nice play coming out from Supernova, but now the momentum is back in Wildcard's hand. Winston makes his way down bottom with that Galio already dead. Gonna pick up this first dragon of the game. Will be that Cloud to some extra ability haste on some of the ultimate cooldowns here for Wildcard.
You know what, Grapes? It was all planned here. I mean, Rovex, actually it wasn't Rovex, it was Papa Chow who went down. He was just looking for the faster back, right? It's more efficient. Yeah. That's all. I mean, Arrow can't cash the gold.
Yeah, he's stuck in lane now. I mean, now you have the advantage, obviously. Stropis, though, gonna get hit by the Zenith Blade. Does just get that back canceled by Dabshin. He's gonna try and look for a good reset for himself. It's gonna be hard to do so now that his back has been canceled multiple times. Bradley can be shoving this wave in, and now Winston making his way towards this top lane. Only level 5 right now, doesn't get 6 off of that crab, so dive will be a bit more difficult with the World Ender still available onto Cozy, but Brandini has the needlework. If they manage to make this work, will cost his Aatrox dearly. Brandini is here, so is Winston, and they're gonna potentially try to start the dive off in just a little bit. First plate has not even been taken yet, and looks like they're going to take this slow because they know that Dabshin and Bradley are coming as well. Cozy's going to have to do something quickly, try to make a trade. He's going to try to just run, but now Winston has hit level 6 with the Stormbringer, and that's the accelerated shock blast from Bradley all the way from the Gromp area to take the kill onto Cozy.
Dive from downtown, well played here, but there is a price to this, and the last time Dabshin abandoned Arrow, Arrow died. Look where Arrow is on the mini-map right now. Yes, thank you, Observer. More than a screen away from that turret, and that is free plates going over. Supernova is making sure that they're punishing this roam up, this cross-map play from Dabshin.
And it's not the worst thing for Cozy. Actually ends up saving his teleport instead of going back with that summoner spell, but could be dangerous if he ends up dying again here. Gonna try to make his way back to the tower. Not sure if he's going to be able to do so.
No!
Okay, now it's really not good for Cozy. He dies again.
He just tried to save the teleport, and it literally cost him his life. When he respawns this time, I think he's probably gonna actually use that teleport. Actually, no. You know what? It's not safe to go under your own turret necessarily.
It's okay. Winston's not there. He's going. Brandini was proxying, I think, at that point. So Cozy just tried to maybe try to stop it and went a little bit too aggressively. But there are pings onto this Rift Herald. This Wildcard have taken it pretty low. Maddie is here with the Moonfall and the Flash. But the Rift Herald has already been secured here by Winston. Could be a potential 3v3 opening up. Winston is low and will get taken down by Cozy. So a nice return kill for Supernova. And they're now only down about 1,000 gold after the Rift Herald goes over.
This is a very different game from game 1 right now here. The side of Supernova, they're making some early moves here. And they're down, but not complete out the game. And more importantly here, they're showing signs of early life. Maddie, I think there's a little over-ambitious here. You don't have Moonfall available, so you don't have that big burst of damage here. And you're going to rely a lot on Strumpus being able to pump out enough damage.
Yeah, looks like they know better than to go for
Cancel
this
the dive.
Daption's on the way, but they're going to go for it. Exhaust used by Bradley, but there's the hero's entrance to try and protect the mid laner. They will get the kill onto Maddie, but Daption will get the return onto the Supernova jungler. Winston's here as well. Stormbringer almost off of cooldown. Not going to be enough to chase down the rest of the members here of Supernova. They just go 1-for-1 under the tower once again.
Good run from Daption, or else that would have been in and out really clean there. I didn't think they had enough damage. I was wrong. The explosive shot from Strumpus right now is huge, and no exhaust this time for the side of Bradley here. So nice attempt, and really the only person paying the price in that one was ultimately Maddie, who is going to be fine. He can continue scaling. The Moonfall is already doing quite a bit of damage.
Rolex might be in a bit of trouble here. Here comes Daption and Winston. It's a 3-man party down in the bot lane. Stormbringer going to turn off the turret. Daption, Rolex barely gets that Chrono Shift up, and here comes Maddie. No ultimate available, but he actually ends up saving the life of his bot laner, not the AD carry. He's like a sport items on him, but Rovex will stay alive for now, and now Maddie's looking to actually chase. Misses the Crescent. Nice heal from Arrow to get the extra move speed, and Wildcard will get out scot-free.
It's a good move for the side of Winston here to try and burn that chrono shift, but the issue is, hold up here, Cozy.
Oh, big trades, big healings from both of the top laners who have both popped the ultis. Brandini has another proc of the needlework available if he so desires to use it. Will get a nice chunk again. It has a big wave crashing in. No jungle assistance though this time for Brandini, so probably not going to result in a kill. That Mountain Dragon is spawning in about 20 seconds. Might be the next conversation for a fight here for both of these teams.
That World Ender being down is kind of sketch for Cozy here. The amount of damage that a Gwen can put out, I mean, at level 9 is pretty significant. I don't know if this is safe for him.
We'll see if they go for it. Actually, it doesn't look like Supernova are really keen on going for this objective. Maddie is up in the top side, clearing up the Gromp. Might look to try and punish Brandini here on the pushing wave. Maybe just try to get Cozy a bit of a reset here. Brandini has the Ignite. Is that enough?
I think it is. The minions did enough.
Oh my gosh. I was not expecting that to do the deed here for the solo kill. But Brandini knows the limits better than I do. That's another solo kill going over to the Gwen.
Dragon being done there. We saw the flicker as Winston's doing it, and oh, Brandini showed himself.
Oh, he did. 2 men over here for Supernova. Nice Moonfall, and that's going to be the thing that takes him down. Shut down over to Maddie. 2 kills now on to this Diana, so accelerating this burst AP damage here a little bit more for the Supernova jungler.
I really think that Moonfall was unnecessary there. You would have been able to pop him anyways. Just needed another Lunar Rush, but it is still a kill, and we have to keep in mind that Brandini did get the solo kill first, and that matters more than this particular play. It enabled the Dragon take as well, and now Arrow being dropped bot side, they're looking to try and find first turn.
Nice flash out from Arrow. Rift Scut Herald will get the proc in. Not enough to take down the turret just yet. Fate's Call in from Daption, and Cozy is ticking low. Has the Chrono Shift, but the tower is now dead. Robex is left alone. Can they get a kill back? I don't think they will be able to. The bomb is ticking on Arrow, but it's not enough. 2 kills over to Wildcard Red as they pick up the first tower of the game.
A bit of a risky dive there, but Stormbringer was held the entire time. They could have disabled the turret, ended up just letting Herald do its thing here. Can they stop the second charge?
Oh,
It goes in. The
yeah.
second charge lands, and Wildcard Red, have they found Strompus now?
They might have just done that. Rocket jump out, but the flash forward from Bradley will try to re-engage. One more auto would do the kill, and no, it's going to be the shock blast forward. Bradley gets another one, his third of the game, as Strompus goes down yet again.
Early game, Grapes, was so even. It looked like Supernova figured out how they needed to play their composition, but it's starting to look like they're losing control, losing tempo in this particular game here as Wildcard Gaming Red, they're the one calling the shots. They've got 2 dragons under their belt already here, and with the ocean map, with the ocean coming in 3 minutes, they're in a solid position right now.
Maddie trying to make sure that they don't take his jungle without a fight. There's the Moonfall, only going to lock up Daption. Hero's entrance forward from Chow as well. We'll get the toss onto the Leona, but the Solar Flare will lock up the enemy support as well. Daption is still alive. A nice heal once again by Arrow, who is exhausted. Bradley is trying to join this fight. Will make it a numbers advantage for Wildcard if he is able to get into the fray. He does. Cozy dies, and Winston is joining as well. Robex and Strompus are not fast enough to rejoin the fight. Double Bomb will try to zone off the rest of Wildcard, but Robex is in the wrong position. Has the Chrono Shift, but not going to use it. He ends up falling as Arrow picks up his 4th in a row.
That's going to be top turn as well here. I mean, it's a nice, easy pickup. Herald coming up in 18 seconds as well. Wildcard get everything on the top side, and Strompus is desperately trying to even things with this mid lane turret. But after he gets this, he needs to start back.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to get out. Bradley is trying to join in here. The Shock Blast will not hit its target. And now this top side is completely controlled by Wildcard Red. Strompus trying to do some damage here with the explosive shots. Has to be careful though. Daption has the Hex Flash, not going to go his way. Maddie is also here on this bottom side. Brandini clearing up the jungle. Maddie might try to find another pick onto the Gwen. Does find it, but here's the needlework. Maddie trying to rocket belt out. Knows he doesn't win this 1v1. Ignite already ticking. And here's the needlework gonna come through. There's the snip, and Brandini punishes Maddie on the invade.
For Maddie, the moment you walked in there, you see the Gwen, you walk away. He had no smite, so he can't even take away that Gromp. And Moonfall just came off cooldown. It wasn't actually available either. So your tools were not there. And sure, you're Diana, but your job right now is not to 1v1 people. You're gank assist, you're added damage. You need someone else to help you finish off the targets. The only person maybe that you could 100 to 0 is the Kalista, and with that Immortal Shield Bow, I don't even think you do that.
Well, they're going to try to make a peck onto Daption here. Rift Herald has been spawned again, this time in that mid lane. Going to take down the 3rd turret of the game for Wildcard Red pretty easily. Strompus will be able to clear it after that. No second charge for Shirley here. Now it's 12-5 in favor of Wildcard Red. They're up about 5,000 gold. Supernova, once again, had the early momentum. We're looking to make it a bit more even, but are starting to fall apart here at the 16-minute mark.
Yeah, and for the side of Supernova, in terms of how they get back into this game, well, we've seen a couple of picks here. Their AoE damage, their sort of grouped up team fight damage is still very high, and it's got to come off the back of Maddie with this Moonfall here, catching multiple members. The moment that Moonfall lands, if Rovex is anywhere nearby, that's your guaranteed engage. Double Bomb, Galio Taunt, Aatrox just getting into the thick of things, and Stromp is just free firing here. With that potential one big wombo combo, you can be down, 6,000-7,000 gold and still have a shot at turning the tides. You just need to find the priority engage, and you need Wildcard Red to maybe group up a little bit.
Dragon is spawning. Will be that Ocean Soul on the map. Some extra sustain for any of these teams. Definitely will be desired if they are able to pick that one up. Winston is here, so is Daption to try and counter the 5-man stack of Supernova, and Daption is going to go in to start the fight. Fates call out from Arrow, so it's just a preliminary engage, but now Supernova are being surrounded. Winston jumps forward with the Stormbringer, and immediately Maddie goes down. Big knockups though from Papa Chow on the hero's entrance. They will take down Daption, but Strompus is going to try to rocket jump forward. They get one onto Cozy, but Strompus dies as well. Rovix and Chow are the only ones left. And it's just going to be Rovex after that. A double kill going over to Brandini. Another one over to Bradley. Make it a triple kill. Another clean ace. Only losing Daption in that exchange.
Maddie went down so quickly. He did not even get the Moonfall off. And everything we just discussed, Grapes, hinges on that Moonfall. If it does not come through, it's so difficult to land all that follow-up CC. And right now, Wildcard Red did such a good job collapsing in from every which way there that you couldn't get all that AoE wombo combo off. They just were never in position for you to get multi-man stuns or more than 2-man stuns, 2-man knockups at the moment.
And it will be soul point picked up for Wildcard Red as well. And SUPERNOVA, once again, are just losing fights left and right. They've gotten past the point where they surrendered in game 1, but the situation that they're in right now, RMC, is still not very good. About 8,000 gold in favor of Wildcard right now. SUPERNOVA going to have to make something happen quickly if they don't want this game to continue to spiral out of control.
I mean, like I said, that they're gone. There's still a chance right now. The issue is more with Wildcard Red and how they want to close this out. If they play this clean, there's nothing SUPERNOVA can do. Strompus!
Oh, going for the 1v1 against Brandini down in the bot lane. Maddie has joined as well. Needlework already popped, doing a decent amount of healing here. Has the Conqueror. Brandini gonna turn this around. Maddie, can you get the kill? He cannot. A double kill from Brandini. And now it's a 4v3 into the Wildcard jungle. Dash is gonna go forward first. Winston as well. The spears are going in for Arrow, who's gonna flash forward aggressively. Not enough damage is able to take down the Kalista just yet. Has been exhausted. Arrow going to go down to Papa Chow. Cozy and Rovex are trying their best to keep the members of Wildcard down at bay. Bradley comes in onto the backside. They're going to try to get one onto Dashin, but he lives with less than 200 HP. Papa Chow will fall as well, and Rovex once again is the only one left alive. Uses the blast gun to try to get away, but there's 3 members of Wildcard hunting you down. He knows he's dead. He's going to just stay there. Going to try to use the flash. Winston is going to try and potentially chase down Rovex. No tail teleports available for anybody on SUPERNOVA means that the ace, the late ace that is, will go through. Wildcard pick up 5 on opposite sides of the map.
That's senior abuse right there. He's an old man, guys. Why are you bullying him? And that's like that's a support Zillion kind of, right? Like you see the Shirelias come through as well. He's not the huge damage threat. But no mercy. Wildcard Gaming Red want to end this clean here. And I said, okay, you know, 6,000, 7,000, maybe they come back. 10,000? That's a little much.
Well, they're trying to make something happen here. Bradley picks up that top lane inner turret. Cozy tries to do something to stop this Jace, but he's 3 levels down. Even under the tower, I think Bradley got the better end of that trade, so not looking so good for SUPERNOVA at the moment. Drop is going to try and get as much gold as he can onto him because he has to be one of the main carries here for this team. Being this Tristana, still pretty even in farm, but Bradley might have caught out Cozy. There's the autos, and yeah, he's legendary now. 10-1-6 on the Jace, and Brandini's chasing down Stropus on the other side as well. Might be another kill going over in a little bit.
Yeah, I think the flash is still available. Rocket Jump,
okay.
Yeah, he's out. He's safe. But that does mean that top side of the map now completely belongs to Wildcard. And Baron is on the table. They have no vision. All the vision got cleared up. Daption is clearing up the last remnants here. And you can see SUPERNOVA, you know, they have no clue. They're still setting up for some sort of pick on the bot side of this map.
They're going for something. They need something. Maddie looking for something onto Brandini. Moonfall forward, taunted up by Papa Chow. But Brandini has so much healing. Maddie has to get res there with the Chrono Shield. But now that Wildcard have finished the Baron, they're able to help out their top laner win this fight. Maddie goes down, and Rovex once again will get caught out behind enemy lines. Brandini goes forward with the scissors after all of that hard work from SUPERNOVA. The top laner for Wildcard is still at about 1,500 HP, and that will do it. Another surrender coming through from SUPERNOVA, 21.5 minutes in, and Wildcard will advance to the finals here at the NorQuest Esports Series.
Well, it is what it is, I guess. And, you know, when you're this far behind, like I said, 10k gold lead with a AoE wombo combo composition, if you're too far behind and your front-loaded burst can't kill any of the priority targets in time, then you're just kind of not going to win, right? There's just no way you're able to quite find your way back in. And huge props to Brandini and Bradley. Brandini went 9-1-7. Bradley went 10-1-7 here. They were absolutely dominating, and you saw Bradley by the end of the game was able to one-shot, one-rotate anybody they ran into. Cozy was one of the tankier members, absolutely got popped. Brandini was 1v2 multiple times that game on this Gwen, and there was just no healing cut coming through from SUPERNOVA. They were so far behind, they couldn't even spend 800 gold to try and reduce that healing. Yeah,
and Wildcard just proved time and time again that they're still the most dominant team here in the amateur circuit, taking that victory 2-0 very convincingly, combined under 40 minutes. So RMC, our first game lasted about 38 minutes, and these two games combined also lasted about 38 minutes. So kind of shows how strong Wildcard have been and how strong they are continue to be. Still have not dropped a game here in this NorQuest Esports series, and we'll see if that ends up changing as we head into the finals.
I'm holding out hope for Conviction and AoE here. And in another bit of a surprise, I believe the current score between Conviction and AoE, they're in their third game, but they're in a third game. That means Conviction won one. They're 1-1 right now, and we have not managed to catch Conviction on stream just yet. I am very curious how they're able to do this. You know, what are they pulling out? Because Conviction is not a team that has been very present in the proving grounds. They've been in the qualifiers, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've actually... Maybe they made Challenge Uprising, but I don't remember seeing them in Risen.
Yeah, they might have made one of them. I don't remember which one or if they did at all. Yeah, it's been a tough road for Conviction so far this summer, but making their presence known here in this NorQuest Esports series, taking one of the top teams that have already qualified for Proving Grounds in AoE all the way to that decisive Game 3. And I'm excited to see how that one matches up, and we'll see which one of those two teams are going to be matched up against Wildcard Red in the pivotal finals here at NorQuest. We're going to take a short break, but before we do so, got to thank our sponsors once again. First of all, to Pepsi. Make sure to try Pepsi Zero Sugar with all the taste and none of the calories. And also to Memory Express, Canada's premier destination for computer products since 1996. 14 locations all across Canada. They're ready to help you in store and online. Check them out at memoryexpress.com. And also to Alberta Innovates, ESIO, and ATB. We'll see you on the other side for what I hope will be a very exciting final series here at NorQuest Esports Series.